Warning: the following program contains content and language that may be inappropriate for younger viewers. There are graphic depictions and portrayals of addiction that will be shown. Parental discretion is advised. Hello, I'm Steve Kendall, your host for WBGU-TV's series, Addiction, Heroin, and Pills. In the past, we've looked at how addiction is ruining our communities and the economic and social impact it's having on our economy. In this program, we'll go directly to the source and talk with 6 people that are in different stages of recovery from opiates and heroin. They will share with us their thoughts and their respective journeys, all from the perspective of an addict. Opiate addiction is taking 6 lives a day in the state of Ohio. When we first started this series, that number was 5. It goes to show how programs like this are very important in order to spread awareness and shed some light on this dark subject. I now present to you Addiction, Heroin, and Pills, in their own words.
I grew up in Perrysburg, Ohio. I was born in Toledo. My mom's side of the family were all alcoholics and addicts, so they sometimes say that it's a gene thing, so that could be true. For me, it was definitely in school, the people that I surrounded myself with. Peer pressure was a big thing.
My childhood was pretty broken. My mom was a very spiritual mother, but she was a divorcee, and she had not only myself, but my brother and sister, my 3 cousins that she raised all by herself. So we lived off of welfare. We had a pretty smooth childhood for the most part, considering the circumstances. But my mom, she always was the type of mother that would, no matter what was going on in our lives, like in her life with bills and anything that was affecting her life, she never made that known for us.
I come from a very normal family. Childhood was great, beautiful. Have a brother, and at 12 my parents got divorced, so I got a lot of what do I want to say? Like a lot of habits or a lot of different things from my dad growing up. Womanizing or thinking of women type, cheated on my mom, so it was a broken home. But other than that, I'm a kind, compassionate, loving type of guy. My parents tried to punish me when I was like 6 or 7, and I remember making my dad laugh because I put books underneath my rear and he couldn't do it and he laughed about it. So really, the word no didn't come up in my raising of me. My brother, he got whooped, but I was more casual. If I got in trouble, it was, well, it'll be okay. Financially, we'll take care of it, or I have a grandma that would always be there for me financially, and that's how they showed love, and I can't complain.
I grew up in Sandusky, Ohio. I had a brother, I have a brother and a sister. My mother and father, they're still married to this day. We had typical childhood. Both my parents worked. My childhood was a little rocky. I do believe my parents did the best that they could to the best of their ability. My brother and sister, we all got along pretty well. We're about two years apart from each other. My brother, the oldest, me in the middle, my sister, the youngest.
I was born in Toledo, Ohio. I mostly grew up around Michigan. With my mom, my parents separated at a young age. They were both alcoholics and addicts also. With both my parents being alcoholics and addicts also, I guess the typical dysfunctional things would come out. It was very abusive. Once my mom finally did separate from my father, it became normal for me to see drugs and alcohol in the household, and I think that played a huge part in me being so okay with that sort of stuff when I was growing up in my childhood and into junior high and high school and stuff like that.
I came from a very good household. I was born in Fremont, Ohio, and Both my parents ran a very successful business, so I never went without anything. I was actually quite spoiled and was a pretty good student also in school. And about 9 years old, my parents divorced and my mom moved to Port Clinton, Ohio, with myself, and that's where I finished out schooling and then moved out when I was 17 and started real life, and that's where I reside now.
I started off smoking weed and drinking back in junior high, and it was something, with me being an addict, it's something that I like. I love the effect that it causes. So I'm not one that just wants to do it on the weekends. I want to do it as much as I possibly can. So eventually it graduated from just drinking and smoking weed to getting into acid and shrooms, and eventually cocaine. That graduated into crack, and ecstasy hit the scene, and I was real big into that for a long time. The first time I ever tried an opiate, I didn't like it. It was a big methadone, a 40 milligram wafer, and I tried it and I did not like the way it made me feel. And then you fast forward a few years later, and I got a hold of some Percocets, and I just loved the effect that it had on me. And eventually, the Percocets weren't enough, so I graduated to the Oxycontin. Those weren't enough, and I started snorting heroin, and then got to the point where I was sticking needles in my vein on a daily basis.
I drank the first time when I was 12 years old. After that, I started with marijuana. It progressed very quickly. I went on to pills, Vicodins, and then Percocet. And this is starting around 15. On a daily basis, I needed the medication to survive. It progressed to Oxycontin. I believe that was in my 20s. I started off snorting them, and then before you know it, I was shooting them.
Moving out on my own at 17, still in high school, I quit taking my medications and started having very poor success at school. I dropped out of high school, and go along with that, I went downhill very fast, started hanging out with the wrong crowd, going to the wrong places, trying to find that approval from people that I obviously lacked because I wasn't at home anymore. And I started with very little drinking. I was never really big into drinking, but quickly got into smoking pot and using pills. And after that, it progressed into cocaine usage. And then I was selling drugs at the same time as I was using them, so it was like fueling the fire at the same time. And just like everybody else, I think it goes from that into the opioids, the prescription pills, the Vicodins, Percocets, Oxycontins, which quickly got expensive and didn't work anymore. And a friend of mine was selling heroin, and I was selling other things, and we kind of had an understanding between the two of us and looked out for each other. And one day he was just like, "Why don't you try this? It's cheaper than the pills, and there's more of it, and it's better." That's all it took for me to even think about it. And it wasn't, I didn't use intravenously at first. I actually smoked it first on foil because I was scared of needles, that stereotype. I'm so scared of needles, but then 3 weeks from there, I was using needles, and it just, within 6 months, it had consumed me completely.
I was becoming bored. I was tired of drinking and smoking. My tolerance became high. So I wasn't drinking 1 to 3 beers anymore. I was having to drink a 6-pack. I had gotten a Percocet, and I took a Percocet from a guy friend. And I cannot stress to you how that made me feel, because it was like I had so much energy. I felt like I was on top of the world. So I'd go to a doctor's. I went to a doctor and told the doctor that I had a real terrible bad back, and he believed me. No x-rays or nothing were ordered. He just gave me Vicodin 750s, and I took them. So I had to take 2 every 4 hours. Well, I was taking 2 every 4 hours the first week to taking like 6 a day, 3 every 4 hours, or whatever, you know, just depending on what my day. If I had to go to a family function, I'd make sure I'd take a little bit extra because I wanted to get that high, like even a little bit more high. So, and it went real quick. My disease, it took off.
It started off with, you know, smoking a little bit of pot here and there, and then it got to drinking. And then after that, when I got out of high school, I was self-medicating myself with Percocets, Opanas, Oxycontins, any kind of painkiller I could get my hands on. After that, it became less self-medicating and more just trying to get high. And after a while, from pills and stuff like that, they were so expensive, you know, somebody comes up to you and says, well, I can get you the same high for half price, third price. You're definitely gonna, you know, that's something you're gonna be interested in. And then it got to heroin. And I was snorting heroin for a few years, and after a while of doing that, I started shooting up.
In the beginning, there wasn't too many consequences. You know, I was able to party. I could still somewhat hold a relationship with a female or family members. The job was okay, and it wasn't a necessity. But as it progressed, it did become to the point where I didn't want to be like this anymore. I was miserable. I was using to the point of just almost like survival. Like my main objective on my daily basis was to get high. When you're on heroin, you do things that you would normally never do. It brought me to the point of, you know, going to prison for committing many felonies. I was homeless. You know, I was manipulating many females. Having them prostitute themselves so that I could get high. And that's not who I am. You know, it made me into a monster, an absolute monster, somebody who I would never ever want to become again.
The only person that I hung out with was the person that was using with me. Those were the only people that I cared about. I was selfish, didn't realize what I was doing, didn't realize I was hurting my family. I felt that I was owed something. I got along with my brother and sister when we were younger. They thought I was crazy because I was constantly upset and always just needing that next drug. That's all I was worried about.
When I started first lying, you know, after a while, I was the best liar in the world. I could sell you anything, to tell you anything, and you'd buy it because I'd buy it myself first before I sold it to you. And after a while, people caught on. You know, and then nobody trusted me. They wouldn't believe a word I said. People didn't want me around in their houses. You know, even my family, you know, before they helped me, you know, they didn't want me around either. Nobody could trust me. Nobody wanted me staying the night in their house. And, you know, that hurt too. You know, losing love from, you know, the people you always thought you would have around.
I've been with my fiance for 14 years, so that tells you a little something of how the progression of the drugs and alcohol affected me. I have 2 kids, they're beautiful, but growing up I was a caring, loving type of kid and do anything for anybody. Well, as it progressed and through my addiction, I found it to be easier just to look out for myself and kind of shut the family behind, shut them out. You know, my dad, my mom, my brother, they knew nothing. Because I wouldn't talk, you know, I got this, you know, I can pay the bills. Things just start closing in on you, you know, your mortgage is falling 3 and 4 months behind, your electric gas starts falling 3 months, 4 months behind. You just don't care. I mean, plain and simple, I don't want to quit because I need to get high.
Nobody wanted to be around me. Everybody felt uncomfortable. Nobody could trust me. My daughter, she never wanted to be around me. She was always constantly, gradually she went into this where she was, can I stay at grandma's tonight? Can I stay at grandma's tomorrow? Oh, can I stay at grandma's for the weekend? And I was like, sweet. In my mind, I was thinking, yes, I don't gotta worry about her for the whole weekend. I'm good. My mom, she was the biggest enabler. She would give me money left and right because, like, once again, I became the best liar. So I came up with some good lies for her to give me money and to take me to places. But I stole a lot of money from my fiance's bank account. I stole thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I'd go to his bank and write checks every day to get money out. my life was ruined, but I didn't care because all I wanted to do was get high. Nothing mattered.
They say that you have to hit your rock bottom to really get into recovery, but we talk about raising the rock bottom. You don't have to go to the point where you're killing somebody or you ran somebody over because you're so high. You know, for me, my rock bottom was just the fact that I was stealing from my friends and family, and I didn't want to do that anymore. I was sick of lying to everybody all the time and not being myself. You know, I didn't feel right in my own skin, and that's what really made me want to change.
There had been a child taken by Children's Services, and I had overdosed in a public place and went to jail again. There had been multiple indictments and prison time over my head. Me and a friend at the time had been using for a couple of weeks after I got out of jail. That's how crazy the disease is. But we were about to go get some more heroin, and we were talking outside my house about our kids and our lives, and you know, that we're not 18 anymore, and that it's time to grow up, and it's time to be adults, and it's time to be the men that we were raised to be, and be the fathers that we were raised to be, and that the drugs were controlling us and stopping us from doing that. And that I actually didn't use that day, and that was like just a little over 2.5 years ago.
There was one night I was high, higher than a kite, and my daughter wanted me to help her with her project. And I was all about it because I was high and I had an energy, and I was helping her with her homework, and I thought I was on top of my game. You know, I thought I was doing everything right, and I made myself look like a complete idiot because I had no idea what I was doing. She kept telling me that this is what was supposed to be done, but I wasn't paying attention. I was doing what I wanted to do. And then finally, after all these years of not looking at my daughter, because I realized that I had not looked at my daughter for all those years in her eyes until that night. And I looked at her, and I glanced at her, and I looked at her, and she looked at me in such disgust. Like, she was just, this is my mom? Why me? You know, like, why did she get stuck with me? That's what she looked like. And I just was done. After I saw that look, I just was like, what is going on? God, save me, please. I can't do this anymore.
Well, June 10th, there was about 3 months before that, of 2014, I had a buddy who came over and visited with me, and we normally did drugs, one of my best friends. He talked with me, and then he went home and shot his brains out. And I always wondered, he had the perfect life, you know, the love of another woman, true love. He wouldn't cheat on her or nothing like that. I have problems in my life like that, you know. I adored this man, and I loved him, you know, he's my best friend. And when I found out he shot himself after he left my house, it's almost like I didn't care no more. So 3 months of just reckless carnage was going on, where I would take more from my mom, more from my grandma. I wasn't paying rent or mortgage for 4 months. You know, electric bills, gas bills, they just wouldn't get shut off after 4 months, and it was frustrating. Like, can't there something go off? Like the gas bill be shut off, or electric gets shut off on my family so people understand how bad this is.
I'd been around recovery enough because of the court systems and all the trouble I was in to be in some meetings and stuff, and people always say, you got to hit your bottom. They're like talking about this tragic moment when you know you hit your rock bottom. And my bottom that I had in mind kept getting lower and lower and lower because I was meeting those bottoms. You know, I always said, if I ever go to jail as a result of this, I'll quit. Or if I ever go to prison as a result of this, I'll quit. And I started doing these things. I was, you know, going to jail, I went to prison. If I ever become homeless, I'll stop using. And at times where I was homeless, and I would still continue to use. I was in very, very undesirable situations and did not look at it as my bottom, because I rode my bottom out for about 10 years, probably 10 or 12 years. For me, when I actually hit my bottom, it was an internal feeling. I was actually doing good. If you were from the outside looking in, you'd be like, this guy's got his stuff together. I had a great job with the union. I had an apartment, so I had a roof over my head, I had a car. But inside, it came to that point where I was just absolutely miserable, and I knew I could not continue to go on living life like this. And I say that I was doing good from the outside looking in. I was wanted by the law for some felonies that I had committed. I had no license in my car, I had none of this stuff. I was a dysfunctional relationship. But that is essentially what it was for me, was that internal feeling that I was lower than I've ever felt before, even in times when I was in prison or in rehab facilities, jails, institutions, and all that. So my bottom was just an inside feeling that I could not continue to go on like that.
I have a sponsor who I talk to every day. I work the steps of recovery. I have a higher power. It keeps me from even getting to that point, but I have to do that on a daily basis. I can't just skip a day. Recovery is my medicine, and it keeps me from having those thoughts. I love recovery. It has saved my life, and it showed me a new way of living and a new way of thinking. It's really hard to explain unless you put it into action. I've been told things to do, like certain things to read, certain things to do, certain things to think, because sometimes I didn't even know how to think. And it would seem like, well, that's silly, but when you do it, it works, and it's just about having the experience. I could tell you recovery is where it's at.
My recovery has been the greatest gift that I've ever received, along with grace, obviously. But for me, it's not even about opening another chapter in my book. It's about just writing a whole nother book as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the differences of me now are like night and day. I'm the same person. I still have the same heart and the same brain, but they're operating on totally different levels now. Being in a program of recovery and actually working the 12 steps and having a sponsor and surrounding yourself with people that have your best interest at heart instead of always their own gain is a tremendous feeling. In the past, I was just an empty soul, all about myself and trying to make money and stay high. And today I'm all about other people and about their souls and trying to help them get to where I am now.
It's like I look back and I'm like, it's crazy how addiction can totally take over your life. And it's so sad to me to see how so many people today are going through exactly what I've gone through, and even worse. So it's just, I'm really blessed that I'm here today. Like I can't stress like how sometimes I sit there and question myself, why? Like, God, why? Because I'm very spiritual. I love God more than anything in this world. And I ask him all the time, like, why me? Like, why did you redeem me? Why did you forgive me? Why am I here? And the only thing that comes to my mind, he tells me, is because you are strong enough to save people's lives by telling your story.
Just the love that you have in recovery compared to the love that probably was there, but I never felt because I was all by myself. Today, I'm not by myself. Today, I have people in recovery that I can call, talk to if I'm having a problem. Because this is still a struggle regardless if you're in recovery or not. It's not peaches and creams. It's real sickness, and it's a day-by-day thing.
Being the epidemic that it is, it's great that there's a lot of places we can go to now. There's houses you can stay at, recovery houses, there's rehab facilities, multiple ones even in the Toledo area that'll help you out, and fellowships, 12-step recovery programs. And it's great that we have all these things because we really need that. Life's beautiful now. I've only been sober for 12 days today, and even in just these 12 days, I can already see how great life is. And it's only going to get better. When you talk to people who have been through what you've been through and can tell you, what it's like now for them, it gives you hope.
My life is amazing these days, absolutely amazing. I enjoy every single day. I have a house now, I have a vehicle, I'm legal. I can drive around with a legal driver's license, which is something I was never able to do. Like, there's a lot of material things that I got back that in the beginning when I got sober, I thought those were the things that I really wanted to get back. But I have an internal peace and happiness. Like, I know serenity these days. I don't have chaos in my head all the time. I'm blessed to be able to help other people. You know, it's another foundation stone of my recovery is helping other people to show them that there is a different way of life. Just an overall better way of life. I walk around pretty much smiling all the time these days. Even when stuff's going on and there's chaos around me and stuff, I still like I'm able to match it with an inner serenity that most people don't have these days, I feel like. And I love my life these days.
There is most definitely hope for the hopeless drug addict that can't get it together. And the age is not even an important issue. You can be 15 or you could be 85. There's always that hope if you're still breathing. And I know that because I've witnessed the program work for myself and many other loved ones around me that I call brothers and sisters now in the program because we're doing this together. People out there watching this that think that recovery's not for them, or the recovery won't work, or that it's a waste of time. The entire life that you've been living up until now has been a waste of time. And I know that a lot of people say it, but if recovery can work for me and give me the life that it's given me, it can do the same for you.
I'd like to thank all 6 of our participants for being part of this program. It's never easy to get in front of a camera and tell your story to the whole world. We're grateful for their time and efforts to spread awareness about addiction to opiates and heroin. This epidemic is taking its toll on our society, and it's up to us to get the word out. With this series, WBGU-TV hopes to enlighten and encourage those who may be struggling with an addiction, or those who know of friends or family members who are in trouble. The road will not be easy, but there are plenty of people out there ready and willing to give you the help you need to your path to recovery. For WBGU-TV, I'm Steve Kendall. We'll see you next time.